Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Obsidian Paranormal Podcast. I'm Jillian.
And I'm Myron.
And on today's episode, we are covering two investigations that prefer to stay anonymous. And we happen to do both of these investigations on the same weekend and thought it would be good to combine them since we can't really get into too much of the history without giving away the location.
And the first of the two investigations we did that weekend was at a residential location. And for future references, we don't ever give the location address or specific details about the people we're investigating for, mainly because we keep privacy.
Yeah, it's very important. And then for the second location, that is a business, and we want to be good partners with the businesses that allow us to investigate. And in this particular case, the business owner did not want us to disclose the location, and we are respecting their wishes.
But the first of the two investigations, which was the residential one, the place at the time was empty, and the individual who was going to be moving in hadn't moved any of the furniture in there or anything yet, and wanted us to go in and see if we can get anything.
We've said this before on a couple of our past episodes, and it really does hold true that during times of transition, so construction, moving in, moving out, selling a business, new owners, all of that can kick up activity, because I think my theory is spirits like routine, and when something interrupts routine, it gets their attention. Or maybe I'm just projecting my love of routine onto the ghosts that we investigate, but I think it still holds true, in my opinion.
Or it could be, you know, how sometimes the wood will absorb certain smells that will come out at random times, and certain stones will absorb energy, and maybe it's a possibility that when they're doing the renovations, they're kicking that up, like the wood, the stone.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about this field of investigation is getting these theories and being able to test them. This particular property came onto our radar from a friend of ours, and she had some insight into a little bit of the history of the home. And there was some true crime aspects where allegedly the previous owners from decades past, they had some domestic disturbances, and there's a possibility that there was a murder-suicide on property. Really, the new resident wanted to make sure that there was nothing residual from that sordid history. And I don't want to get too sensational with it. We'll just leave it as it was messy.
Yeah, and this house is pretty secluded, so it was easy to understand how the neighbors probably didn't know what was going on at the time.
It's a very beautiful setting, surrounded by trees. And that night it snowed and it was so peaceful. It was hard to imagine anything other than just peaceful existence in this home. And we hope that the new resident is continuing to experience the peace and beauty of the property. We've talked on previous episodes about how sometimes our beloved dead travel with us on investigations. And this particular investigation was right around the time of my dear friend Rhiannon's death. And Rhiannon had passed away at a young age from cancer. And when she was in the hospital, one of the final moments that she and I had together was listening to her song, Rhiannon by Stevie Nicks, and then listening to my favorite song, which is Landslide by Stevie Nicks. And it was this palpable moment where we held each other and cried, knowing that she only had a few more months on this earth. So when we arrived at this location for the investigation, we had all of our equipment in our padded boxes, and, you know, everything is well packed and taken care of. and we start hearing from my spirit box, Stevie Nicks' Landslide. And I took that as a sign that Rhiannon was showing us that she was with me, and if she were still alive now, she would absolutely want to investigate with us. She definitely believed in the paranormal, and we talked about before she passed away that she would continue to show me signs of her existence after death. And that is such a special memory for me that I can explain in a way that my spirit box probably bumped up against something and turned itself on. I don't think a spirit turned it on, but what's significant to me was the choice of the song. Of all of the stations it could have turned on to, at any particular time, it turned on to a station that was playing Stevie Nicks' Landslide. So that will forever live in my heart as a special moment. And as much as that moment means to me, I'm still an investigator through and through, because ever since that day, whenever we put our spirit boxes into the case, we take the batteries out just to make sure that they don't turn themselves on, and also to make sure we don't run down the battery before an investigation.
Yeah, and for this investigation, it was just the two of us. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't this the investigation that started the Jillian on a Toilet series?
Listen, yes, but to clarify, investigating while sitting on a closed toilet seat, because one of the claims of activity was that the true crime event could have possibly happened in the bathroom. So we needed to make sure that we were investigating all aspects of the house. And Myron, you got a lot of good pictures of me sitting with a voice recorder on the toilet that hopefully you never use for incriminating purposes. Allegedly.
And oddly enough, we've gotten a lot of evidence in bathrooms, so this isn't too unusual, I guess.
I mean, it's an often overlooked area to investigate, and I know I do a lot of great thinking in the shower and maybe some not so great singing in the shower, so why not investigate an often used room in the house?
But rarely investigated.
Exactly. Notice Myron has not yet promised to not release the incriminating photos of me investigating on the toilet. And he's still quiet about it.
So on to the investigation.
Uh-huh.
At this one, we did the basement, the main floor, and the attic.
During the investigation itself, we didn't really experience anything in real time. But we both had a sense of strong emotions in the house. So I think it was significant because myself and another witch from my coven did go back a few days later and performed a house blessing. And when we came back, we went down to the basement and the water heater was leaking all over the floor. So we were able to turn off the water, contact the landlord, and get that fixed before the new resident moved in. And if you don't know anything about witchcraft or the elements, water is the element that's associated with emotions. So the fact that you and I felt those strong emotions kind of emanating from the house, and then the water heater kind of exploding all over the place before the house blessing, I feel is significant. And we did get some good evidence upon evidence review, too.
Yeah, who knows how long it would have been before they would have realized it.
Yeah, it was a good thing that myself and my fellow witch came over on that day, because we prevented a lot of property damage. So I think that was part of the house kind of healing itself from the wounds of the past.
Could be. And getting to the evidence, pretty much all of our evidence that we did get was on the first floor. We didn't really get anything in the basement, nothing really in the attic. But on the first floor, one of the things that happened was we had one of our cameras facing down the hallway. While going over the evidence, you hear what sounds like a male voice saying something about a vacation. And it's definitely not my voice. And Jillian and I were the only two there. So it's definitely not her voice. We also caught Jillian had been talking. And right after she finished talking, you hear another female voice that is definitely not her. And definitely not me.
It sounds like really breathy. And it almost sounds like the voice is saying breathe or grieve, or we can't really make it out. We'll definitely upload that to our page soon. But it kind of lends to the theory that we have that with a lot of the evidence coming through either right after we've spoken or in the middle of us speaking, do the spirits need to grab some of the energy or some of the echo of our voice in order to create their own?
Yeah, that could also have to do with the spirit box and the white noise.
Right. We get a lot of good evidence with the white noise and the spirit boxes because they already have some sort of vibration to manipulate.
And then in the next one, Jillian had just said something, actually. And then we caught what sounds like, I guess, a little kid laughing.
At least they thought I was funny. So that's good.
Yeah.
And then there was another one, though, that did lead to the more dark and serious side. We caught a male voice that says very forcefully, "Get out."
Picture Amityville Horror when the priest is in the room. Similar to that.
Like classic horror. And then we also caught another one that was more light of a little girl or a little child saying, "Where's mommy?" or "Where's my mommy?"
What's interesting about that one, though, is we caught that phrase multiple times on different recorders that night. So it wasn't like it just said it once.
All in all, I feel like this particular residence is very reflective of what normal family life is in, sometimes a not so happy environment. You have the good times, and then you have the dark and the serious times. But ever since we blessed the house, myself and my fellow witch, we have not heard anything from the resident of any activity or anything other than happy memories in that house, and we really hope that it continues to be that way.
Other than that, the only other thing we got in that house was when we were using the spirit box and got my brother's name, which is funny because the next night at the next investigation, we got my sister's name. And when we got my sister's name, it wasn't on the spirit box. It was a whisper.
Yeah, that's very interesting that 2 investigations on the same weekend and your brother's name and then your sister's name. I think there's a link.
That's pretty much it for that investigation. Might as well go on to the next one.
Absolutely. So this next location is a family-owned B&B in New England. And it came on our radar because we actually know one of the people who grew up there. It was her childhood home, and it has multiple buildings on this one site. So there's like a barn and a cottage, and then the family home. So she had had feelings when she had grown up there. Is a historic property. A few of our friends had actually stayed in one of the not often used rooms of the B&B and had felt a presence, something ominous, maybe, little creepy. So we contacted our friend's mom and she said, sure, come on down, but she didn't want it to affect her business. So we're just going to keep it anonymous. It was a really fun and interesting investigation on another snowy New England dreary day.
Well, night.
Right, yeah. This historic property had a feature that a lot of historic homes have, and it might not be something that the average person is familiar with. So in historical homes, you have a birthing room. This birthing room was used for birthing babies, also for treating the sick, and it was also a place where the dead were laid out and the body was prepared for the wake and the burials. This particular property had a birthing room, and it was also the place where my friend's ancestor convalesced before she passed away. So we wanted to make sure that we respected that place and that time of transition in that room. And we did investigate that particular area, but it didn't really yield any different evidence or any different feel than any other room in the house. So I think it's far enough removed from its historical purpose that that lingering liminal space of birthing and dying has faded away over time. So just like the other investigation started the series of Jillian sitting on a closed toilet lid while investigating, this investigation started an interesting experiment that we've been continuing to do to this day. During this investigation, like I said, there was multiple different buildings on the property that we were investigating. So we had some downtime where we were walking from building to building. And one of my very good friends, who was also very good friends with Rhiannon when she was still alive, she had been going through some personal drama with the relationship that she was in at the time. And so as we were walking from building to building, I checked my phone for the flashlight to be able to see on the dark paths and saw that I had a couple messages from my friend Katie. We started talking about a little bit of what Katie was going through in her personal life. And we wondered if the spirits would want to know what was going on with the gossip with Katie and her love life. So to this day, we still will talk about Katie and her dating trials and tribulations, successes and not so successful things. And we've actually gotten on some other investigations some pretty good evidence when talking about something other than, what's your name? Tell me about what do you want? You know, all of like the normal standard paranormal investigative questions will actually give them gossip as fodder to respond to and give their opinion on.
Do you know if Katie ever dated anyone named Peter?
Not that I can recall.
Because we did get an EVP on this investigation that said, "I love you, Peter."
I don't know. Maybe it's something that she should look for her next person to be named Peter. Maybe it's some advice, or maybe that gossip made somebody grateful that they had Peter in their life.
One thing actually that I did notice about this investigation is that the majority of the evidence we caught mentioned names. Like, we had the Peter one. We also got my sister's name, as I said. And in that particular one, there was a whisper saying that they were helping her. We had asked if they knew our friend who was connected to this property, and a male voice on the spirit box said, "My name is Stefan." So we had Stefan, my sister's name, Peter. I don't know. It's kind of seems like a pattern with that one.
Could it be because it's a place of transition, like the Shanley Hotel being like a hotel, an inn, a B&B, that it's connected to multiple names? Because even though my friend's family lived there, now there's people coming from all over the place to stay there, and they could be kind of bringing their friends and family along with them from the spirit realm.
Then we had also asked at one point if it was easier for them to communicate using the spirit box, and a female voice said it's worse. So
maybe that particular spirit wasn't able to communicate well with the spirit box, because we still continue to use it.
Yeah, always will. Because we've gotten some really good stuff with those.
Just like whenever we hear a spirit say, "get out," we're still not leaving. We're still going to ask them why. We definitely paid attention to the room where our mutual friends stayed and really felt like there was an ominous or dark presence. And of all of the locations, we didn't capture any evidence in that area. We actually caught most of our evidence in one of the more cozy welcoming places of the property. Nothing stood out as scary or ominous at all.
No, actually, the only scary part of the investigation was the drive home.
Yeah, that was harrowing. Like I said, it was a dark and stormy night. And when we left the property, it was fine where we were, but the more we drove, that highway turned into an ice skating rink. And we are so grateful that we got home safe and sound.
Yep.
I think both of these investigations hold a special place in my heart because just like how we launched this podcast on our anniversary, investigating these two unique properties is how we celebrated our anniversary that year. And I can't wait to spend many more anniversaries with you ghost hunting and doing this podcast. But I don't want to get too mushy and make you blush. So all in all, it was a great weekend. Great investigations. And I don't think that the current business owner of this property or the current residents of the first property have anything to worry about. Nothing came off as inherently negative or...
No, if anything, actually, the bed and breakfast, I think, was something positive if there's anything there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's it for this episode. Our next episode will be on an investigation we did at another private residence, and this one we're referring to as the College House, and that will be in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that one was a fun one. We call it the College House because there are a bunch of kids in college living in this house. Can't wait to explore that with y'all, and you can follow us all over social media at Obsidian Paranormal. Our website is obsidianparanormal.org. And we would love to create some bonus content for you with some of your real life ghost stories. And you can email them to us at obsidianparanormal@gmail.com. And until next time, stay spooky.